Are you a nation that controls or has large amounts of energy in your borders? Well, fear not. America is here to help. What's the problem, you might say? I didn't say there was a problem. I said you've got energy and we want it. Case in point, Ukraine. Hey, Ukraine may not be the big producer of gas and energy, but boy, oh boy, are they a conduit to which it can enter the European Union. Namely from Russia, who controls a large portion of energy into Europe through their Gazprom monopoly, which goes through Ukraine. And lo and behold, here we are, entrenched in war once again. Does it benefit you? Not really. I suppose to a great degree, if you look at the bigger picture of Western world domination, I would not consider it Enlightenment values. It's more like imperial Western values, a tainted and corrupt cancer, an idea that has destroyed the values that this country once held. Yeah. You see, we want Europe to do better. We want their economy to be better. We want to beat other economic blocs and maintain U.S. petrodollar supremacy. And for this, we'll sacrifice everything, including your children. Not only will we send your kids overseas to die, but we'll also blow up other kids in other countries. This has been the foreign policy of the United States for quite some time. And where are we now? Oh, boy. I love how when the U.S. and Western forces wanted to offset the Gazprom gas monopoly in Europe, they wanted to build a pipeline, the Qatar-Turkey pipeline. Syria said, sorry, dude, can't do it. Russia is our ally. And we went, ooh, that Russia. Convenient for us. A civil war breaks out in Syria. We just happen to be supplying the rebels against the Assad regime, they call it. All these news reports say Assad is a very bad guy. He may be. I don't know. I'm not talking about that. All I'm talking about right here is Western interests. Because when we don't get the pipeline that we want, we still have to deal with the problem of Russia's gas monopoly into Europe. Now, I don't think this is the United States teaming up with Europe necessarily, because I'm pretty sure it was Western forces that blew up Nord Stream 2, which also helped deliver Russian gas and energy into Europe. Russia was putting pressure on Europe. Europe was saying, fine, we'll buy from you. Some have referred to it as a glorified gas station with guns, perhaps. And that's a problem for the U.S. So here we are entrenched in war in Ukraine, with the latest news being first Abrams tanks arrive in Ukraine, U.S. officials say. And I'm ready to, I'm going to calm down. I wanted to take my hand and put it through my monitor at tremendous speeds. That's what I wanted to do. I'm kidding, by the way, no. But it is frustrating to see. The United States is at war with Russia. Let me repeat that for you again. I can already hear them coming. Knives out. They want to ban me next. The U.S. is at war with Russia. No question. We're sending Abrams tanks? Okay, well, I should say it's Western forces, it's NATO. We are at war with Russia, and Ukraine is the proxy. And Russia knows it, and anyone paying attention knows it. But anybody who's trying to lie to manipulate the average public is just going to say Ukraine. I'm sick of it, man. Just say it. Be honest. Be honest. But they know that it's not going to fly anymore. You see, Iraq and Afghanistan were a disaster for the United States. And for what? For what purpose? Nation building? Get out of here. They say 9/11, they say all this stuff, but come on, we know that there were Arab Egyptians and Saudis involved, and we went and invaded Iraq. I'm not interested anymore. And that's the problem. Donald Trump gets a big boost from anti-war sentiment. But oh no. We got to have war in Ukraine. So what do they do? Proxy war. No, we're not really involved. It's just U.S. citizens volunteering, U.S. military intelligence, U.S. special forces on the ground, and all of our weapons and training coming out of Poland. I can't believe this headline, man. No, I can believe it. I'm sorry. I can believe it. Anything that churns and burns money for the military industrial complex. It's not so simple as to say the military industrial complex just wants to make money and wants these contracts. A large component is it's war. The world is in a perpetual state of war. That's it. It's just to varying degrees. To what degree are we at war? Now, you may be saying to yourself, but Tim, the Ukrainians need our weapons because Putin's a dictator, right? Well, I give you one better. From 60 Minutes. I'm actually impressed that CBS published this. 60 Minutes discovered the U.S. is financing more than weapons in Ukraine. The government is buying seeds and fertilizer for farmers, paying the salaries of 57,000 first responders, and subsidizing small businesses. Man, these videos are something else, I tell you what. It's really great to see, an artillery get dismounted from a cargo plane or whatever they're called. What are those, B-52s? I don't know anything about planes.
US government's buying seeds and fertilizer for Ukrainian farmers and covering the salaries of Ukraine's first responders, all 57,000 of them. That includes the team that trains this rescue dog named Joy to comb through the wreckage of Russian strikes looking for survivors. And the US also funds the divers, who we saw clearing unexploded ammunition from the country's rivers.
Okay, I'll pause right there. Look, if you're hiring people to do survivor search and you're hiring people to search for landmines and river mines or whatever, yeah, I consider that funding war. Let's be real. But seeds, fertilizer, and other government first responders, not all of them tied to war, you are giving more money than you realize. This is colonization. So why do you think Russia's mad? Do you think that Russia is a cartoon villain? With all due respect to Ami Horowitz, because I think he's a great dude who's produced a lot of really awesome content. And he's got one of the best videos on voter ID ever done, if not the best. But we were having a conversation before the show started about war. And his view is that Putin is a comic book villain. And that Putin's goal is just, I'm evil, so I'll take over. For real. I'm being kind of a dick. But he said that Vladimir Putin was a one-dimensional villain, a comic book villain who just wants Ukraine for no reason. And I was like, that's silly. That's childish. Vladimir Putin wants the land bridge into Crimea to secure access to the Mediterranean. Okay, there are reasons people do things. Now, of course, there are serial killers. Serial killers' reason is it feels good, they think, and that's creepy. Yeah, and so they're a bit one-dimensional. But Vladimir Putin is not one. You don't become the president of the Russian Federation by being one-dimensional. You just don't. So I'll give you an example. Oh, man. You know what I really hate in comics and movies? When the bad guys kill their own henchmen. That's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. The stupidest. Yes, let's undergo resource attrition, then we'll win. Are you kidding? You need as many henchmen as possible. So when you always see these movies where it's like, you want to know how they're the bad guy? Because they killed their own men. Oh, come on. That's just nonsensical. God, give me something better than that. The henchman goes to the boss and he's like, sir, we failed in retrieving the Genesis device. And I'll be like, why did you fail me? Sir, I tried my best. And then bang, he kills the henchman. What? That's stupid. You're like one of your higher ranking dudes. It's like, bro, at the very least, you'd be like, well, that's a waste of energy and resource. And then someone's got to clean it up. Why don't you just go cook the potatoes? Just do anything else. You're fired. But, you're being demoted. It's nonsense. Vladimir Putin invades Ukraine for a reason. He wants the Donbass into Crimea. U.S. forces were advancing in Ukraine, soft power, not physical. I'm not talking about war. I'm talking about with the ousting of Yanukovych, the U.S. was getting a grip on sentiment in Ukraine, and Ukraine was poised to join EU and NATO. The problem was their economies sucked, and if they entered the EU, it would cause problems for the rest of the Eurozone. So, as the sentiment started growing, and legitimate sentiment among the people, I don't blame them. They're like, we want to be part of Europe. Of course you do. You don't want to be part of Russia. What is it? Glorified gas station with guns, right? And so Russia's like, this is a threat to us. Our access to the Mediterranean is through Crimea. It's been ours forever. Crimea is Ukraine, but it's our base. So what happens? When Yanukovych gets ousted, Russia seizes Crimea through referendum, sure. But they were already there. They simply walked out of their existing base and said, okay, we're in charge now. Already there. The problem now, Russia's access to Crimea is over this one simple bridge, and it was bombed recently. So Russia's like, we need to secure the Donbass region all the way down to from Donbass to Crimea so that we have land access to Crimea. That seems to have been their main objective. Now, Ami believes that Vladimir Putin's a comic book villain, but I'm like, dude, NATO is pressing on their borders. They don't respond. Estonia, Latvia, etc. Once we move into Ukraine, now we're threatening their warm water port access. They're going to take this land. And it appears, as of right now, they're winning. The question then is, for all of you, for what purpose is the United States in Ukraine? Taxpayers doing way more seeds and fertilizer growing food? In the Netherlands, they were stopping farmers from farming. And we're like, why? If you're having a population crisis, why would you stop making food? Shift that to Ukraine, put the money into Ukraine because it funds war. Have your nations stop producing, force your countries instead to buy from Ukraine. Maybe it's a comparable cost, damages your economy locally, but bolsters economic activity in Ukraine. More people working, more people producing, more people trading, more money for war. That's really it. If the economy of Ukraine is decimated and there's nobody left to fight, they just leave. If there's nothing worth fighting for, you put money in there so people are like, I don't want to leave. I get paid here to farm and it's harder somewhere else. And thus, they stick around. You maintain the people on the ground, you make them fight, and it's scary what's happening. This idea that Russia's losing is crazy to me. I mean, I'm not saying they're winning. I'm just saying like the propaganda, it's crazy. Because they're conscripting like old dudes who don't know how to fight and they're giving them like a few hours of training. Some of these guys get better training. Some of these guys can fight. I get it. There's volunteers, there's security forces, there's PMCs, all that stuff. But some of these stories you hear are nuts. And it could all be propaganda. All of it. But when you take a look at how the BBC is reporting that Russia's basically seized the land bridge and they control it and maybe even pressing into Odessa, that's the BBC reporting it. I'm just like, whoa. I thought Russia was losing. Nope, they got their land bridge. I can only say, at this point, what's the purpose? It's about time for a peace treaty. And that means giving Russia the Donbass land bridge into Crimea. And the fighting stops. We de-escalate. No World War III. That's it. Ukraine doesn't want that. They say, nope, we get everything back, even Crimea. Good luck with that. You see, Ami's position was that we decimated Russia globally, cut off their customers, and caused damage to their military. That's the real reason here, isn't it? We want to take Crimea away from them because it basically destroys them. With no access to the Mediterranean, how are they transporting oil and gas through the Mediterranean? That's right. They don't. And that puts them in a very dangerous position. And the strategy here seems to be to cripple Russia because they're the easier target before China. I get it, man. I get it. I can only see bits and pieces. A lot of this information is classified. The U.S. is trying to dominate globally with the petrodollar. I don't see this working out very well for all of us, but I'm not going to pretend to have the solutions. All I can tell you is we're not doing right by the people here in this country when we're giving our money away. And we've got lead poisoning. We've got a border out of control. We've got an economy running in disarray. It's pathetic. But I don't have the answers, man. So it's all I can do is whinge on the internet. But I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. on this channel, and we'll see you all then.